So as a scholar who travels the Islamic world, you see many stories, many people. So what do you think is the biggest problem of the Muslim youth right now, and how do you think we can overcome it?
I think the biggest problem with the Muslim youth is perception of Islam itself.
Yes.
In my observation, there's been 4 major observations that are common across the Muslim world. A lot of young people feel that Islam is asking for too much and they're not able to do it. That's number 1. Number 2, that they don't think no matter how much they do, they're going to be good enough. Like Jannah is just way too expensive and I'm just never going to be good enough. And the third observation is really scary. A lot of people feel like Islam is an old thing and all the really good people lived a very, very long time ago and we're never going to be good enough. And attached to that is the idea that we're just it doesn't seem like Islam fits modern life. It belongs in old times, just like the good people were in old times. Islam itself belongs in old times. And then finally, a lot of young people feel that the laws of Islam, the ethics of Islam, the punishments of Islam are very harsh. And they don't even meet modern standards of humanity and human ethics and humanism and things like that, right? So these attitudes have become very common. Now, there's 2 things that have happened as a result. Either you have young people that are Muslim by name, but they don't really feel any attachment to Islam because these questions are not answered. Because when they ask these questions, they get in trouble. Like they're just told to do istighfar, or there's a jinn on them or something, And on the other hand, you've become youth who say, we don't need the answers to these questions. We're just going to follow Islam no matter what. And they become very extreme in their following of Islam, and they're not tolerant of any kind of questions. So 2 extremes are being created. One that wants nothing to do with Islam, and the other that says there's no room for questions in Islam. Who needs answers? We don't need answers anyway. And I feel that Allah gave us this book, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ, so you can think. So you can engage these questions and address the youth the way they should be addressed. Because this is a brief interview, I'll just share with you just some quick observations in addition. I feel that even though I have tremendous respect for scholars around the world, the language of our scholars is no longer the language of our youth. And the reason for that is because they're not engaged in direct conversation. Our scholars belong in a certain circle in society, and youth belong in a certain other circle in society, and these 2 circles don't understand each other, right? And so a lot of times the questions that are being asked after a student learns a little bit about evolution, or learns a little bit of philosophy, or learns a little bit about scientific theory, etc., they start questioning, well, how does this tally with Islam? The scholarship on our side, because they're not versed in these sciences or this philosophy or this new age scientific language, they just feel either they give inadequate answers, or they give answers that are almost like dismissing the question, right? And that, in my view, is even a bigger problem than anything else. These questions need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed intelligently. And so that, to me, is a huge problem of the youth. The last comment on this I'll say is that there's 2 things. There's extreme behavior, but before you talk about extreme behavior, you have to talk about extreme ideas, right? And a lot of times we find the behavior problematic when we don't realize that the behavior only exists because for a long time ideas have been brewed inside the mind. And the real war to me is not the war against extremist behavior, it's actually against extremist ideas and how to counter and really provide an alternative to those ideas, inshallah.
So lastly, we have a YouTube channel, and what is your advice to the youth who are watching this right now?
So my advice is just hang in there and keep your journey going. This religion asks you to be critical and open-minded and tolerant. Be accepting of other views, even if you don't find them agreeable at first. Just because I disagree with someone doesn't mean that I hate them. There are people, my teachers, so many of them, I disagree with them very passionately, but that doesn't mean anything. I still respect them to death. So this religion is about just open discourse and continuing to engage in your journey of learning. Don't stop learning. The other thing is, don't become obsessive. Whatever you do in moderation. Young people, when they get into something, they really get into something and they lose everything else. So keep a balance between different parts of your life, inshallah. I've got to get going, inshallah. Really nice. And I hope all the best for the YouTube channel and the youth efforts here, inshallah.
It was a great honor for us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.